So we've come to a very special part of today's event where we recognize a member of our community with a Making a Difference Award for their outstanding use of GIS technology to drive positive change within their communities and contribute to a better world. You saw a glimpse of last year's winner and the work that they're doing in schools themselves. So this year, our Making a Difference Award is Maximum City. It's an urban education company based in Toronto that's transforming how young people shape the future of cities by using advanced mapping tools. We're thrilled to have Maximum City's executive director and founder, Josh Fullen, here today. But before I bring him on camera here, we're going to watch a video of Maximum City's work.
In some ways, we get it backwards in terms of who we engage about decisions in city building and city design. But if you think about who has sort of the longest future in the city, it's young people. They're going to be spending the most time with the consequences of the decisions we make today.
Children are an important resident group. They do have an important voice. And the challenge is really, how do we tap into hearing their perspectives?
About 15 years ago, I was teaching kids about sort of civics and governance in a very sort of traditional way from a textbook. And, when I looked out into the classroom, there was just a lot of blank stares coming back. And I thought there's got to be a better way to engage young people in this very important conversation. And that is how Maximum City was born. KidScore and the U-Score are tools we developed with kids as a metric to evaluate what young people like and don't like in cities, in their communities. As a young person who goes out into their community for a walk using Survey 123, that score then gets visualized onto a map that compares it to all the other scores in that neighborhood and in that city.
He really wants to make sure everybody's voice is heard. And that's about the work that we do externally in the world, hearing from youth, but it's also about the way he models doing the work with us. And I have to say that's unique because you don't always find that. I think when we're looking at the voices and experiences of kids, it's not only asking them and getting their feedback, it's also acting on it.
One thing that surprised a lot of people when it comes to putting wood chips down on the playgrounds, and multiple kids were saying they don't like it. It hurts to play on, it hurts to fall on, it's not fun playing on wood chips. Something concrete like that was critical.
The next piece is, here's the data, policymaker, that you've heard from kids about what they think is important around the next time that an event is happening here. Here's the impacts that I have in my community, so that they can take that data and they can do something with it.
Julius was a student, came to our program in Frankfurt, and the last time we were in Frankfurt a couple of years ago, Julius actually came as a presenter, as one of the professionals, since he now works for one of the largest urban development projects in Europe.
I have always had an engineering preference, and with the Maximum City impressions, I decided to study civil engineering. And right now I'm working in a project development company here in Frankfurt. So Maximum City was pretty much the first stepstone, I would say, in my career.
And so if they spend their whole childhood being not listened to, that their experience doesn't matter, we can't possibly expect children to suddenly step over a line, an age line, into an active resident and citizen if we haven't put in the groundwork to help develop their ability to recognize how they can make a difference.
The tools are not just a data visualization tool for us, they're also a tool for connection, for connecting young people to place. If you're not connected to your community, you're not going to take care of your community. If every Canadian city integrated youth voice into urban planning, our cities would be fairer and support more people who are currently falling through the cracks. And awards like this are recognition that we are on the right path, but also a reminder that the work is not done.
Wow, that's just amazing. So I'm going to ask Josh to join us here. So Josh, welcome.
Thank you, Alec.
To GIS Day in Canada. And it gives me great pleasure to present you with this Making a Difference Award for the work that we've just had a glimpse of here today. So congratulations, and thank you for the work you're doing, and it's just amazing.
Thanks very much, Alec.
So I'd like to find out a little bit more about this. We're going to have a little chat here for about 10 minutes or so. And what got you into this? Like, how did you get inspired to do this?
Well, I was a teacher about 15 years ago at the University of Toronto Schools, and I was a dissatisfied teacher because I was teaching in a more traditional way, direct instruction, and using a textbook for civic education, and it was just not grabbing the kids. So I thought there's got to be a better way to do this, and it started with a summer camp. I invited a team of professionals, engineers, and architects and planners into a room at the University of Toronto Schools, and about 30 kids, and they worked on a real-world urban design challenge for a week and then presented their ideas to professionals. And that's how Maximum City was born.
Amazing. So you and I had a wonderful discussion yesterday about that went on for several hours, I think, and it's hard to wrap that all up into one thing. But and this man is just amazing. But what are some of the creative ways that you've been using GIS and the tools to transform young people and the learning that they're doing?
Well, you've heard about the KID score in the video.
Yep.
So that's one of our key tools that we use for connecting young people to place and building an evidence base for positive change using their data and their perspectives. But the project we're particularly excited about right now is using Survey 123 and Experience Builder to collect, measure, and assess young people's experiences in and around the stadiums and the fan zones of the next Men's FIFA World Cup. So we're working in 4 of the host cities: Toronto, Los Angeles, New York, New Jersey, and Guadalajara, Mexico. And this World Cup will be the largest World Cup ever. In some ways, it will be the largest cultural event in the history of humankind. That's not hyperbole, Alex. You know, we have over 100 matches, over 40 countries participating for the first time. It's being hosted across 3 host nations, so there's lots of complexity to it. And if you think about, you know, I was at one of the World Series matches here in Toronto a couple of weeks ago, walking around Rogers Centre. If you think about the intensity of that, the intensity of movement and all the people around the stadium at that moment, and now picture that from the perspective of a young person and multiply it by a factor of 10 or 20x, and that will be the World Cup. So it's incredibly important to try to understand what the experience of young people is in and around the stadiums at that moment of intensity. What's their experience of ease of movement, of safety, of access to remedy, of getting around the stadium? Those are the things we are measuring using Survey 123 and Experience Builder.
Amazing, just amazing. Now, you introduced me to a term yesterday that I think is really interesting called cultural literacy of place. And I'm just amazed at that. And what is it that young people are looking for from what you've seen out of cities? I mean, this is one of the cities are very dense. There are lots of high-rise towers, not much green space in some places.
Yeah, context is extremely important to us, Alex. So we like to start from a position of contextual literacy, trying to understand the place and understanding that people live in a context and spend time in a context every day. And if you want to suggest improvements or changes, you must demonstrate empathy, curiosity, and an understanding of that context before you try and change things. So contextual literacy is incredibly important to us as an organization. We want to be highly contextually literate about a place before we suggest anything in terms of an improvement or a change. Secondly, you know, young people, when they tell us what they like in urban environments, it's really surprising. They actually like dense urban places with lots of stuff. So I talked about ease of movement in relation to the Men's World Cup. That is key to young people as well in urban environments. You know, most young people are getting around by public transit, by walking or cycling. So those sort of multimodal ways of getting around and the safety of those modes is incredibly important to them. And they also like lots of stuff. You know, if you think about the old Main Street Forum,
the fine grain retail, the mixed uses, the offices on the residences on top. That's what kids tend to like. And we talked about, the vertical nature of some cities. Kids actually don't mind the vertical nature of places as long as there's interesting stuff to do at the street level and at the ground floor, and there's safe places, and there's green spaces folded into that, and there are places where they can connect with their peers.
Yeah, because you exist in the cubicle you're in, but you live on the street, live in the community. So this is pretty interesting to me, how this is all evolving, because cities are the future all around the world, and many of them have real challenges that can only be helped locally. What advice would you give to teachers or organizations hoping to make a difference with GIS like you've done?
Well, for teachers, I would say this. The tools are not subject specific. I think, 10 years ago, we thought of GIS tools as for geography or science, and there was the social studies disciplines. They are not subject specific anymore. They are skill specific. So if you think about the skills that we see young people developing using GIS tools, it's all the skills they need for the 21st century. So I'm thinking of critical thinking, of systems thinking, right? If you think about all of the spatial systems in cities, GIS allows young people to understand those systems better, to connect with those places. So the critical thinking, the systems thinking, the creativity, those are the skills that the tools develop for young people. So no longer should you think about GIS tools as for geography. You should think about it as skills, and that aligns very well with the Ontario curriculum. The Ontario curriculum has 7 transferable skills. They can all be applied and developed using GIS.
So that's really the development of the GIS generalist, which is our theme here today. How do you be a generalist across all these different disciplines? So finally, is there a message that you'd like to share with young people about the power of civic engagement and that you've seen so far, and that you've seen among your students, and the student that you showed in the video, who's not a student anymore?
Well, my message for young people is twofold. And one is a provocation, and maybe one is sort of an affirmation. So the affirmation is to trust your instinct for change, to go out and make good trouble. Young people have very good instincts for fairness, for positive change, for helping people, and for making a better world. So I would say trust that instinct, lean into it with your peers, and go after change. And then the second thing is spend time in those spatial environments that we talked about. You cannot care about a place, you cannot be a steward of a place if you do not spend time in your community. And that can be as simple as going for a walk with your friends or someone you care about, but you must spend time in the spatial systems in our urban environments, and spatial systems are everywhere in urban environments.
Amazing. Well, thank you very, very much. This has been an absolutely terrific experience for me, and getting to know you a little bit. I'm going to leave you with one last question, which we haven't scripted, is how do other organizations learn from you? How do you expand Maximum City to other cities, besides those big 4 we've talked about for that one event? How do we institutionalize this, I guess, is maybe in a few words. It's not easy to pack this into a few words.
Well, I'll go back to the idea of contextual literacy. So the challenge for us in terms of scaling our work is that we still want to spend time getting to know places. So wherever we work, we want to spend that time getting to know a place. And the one thing I will say to other organizations is that the speed of innovation in the tools has been incredible, particularly in the last kind of year or 18 months. We have seen these tools advance incredibly. So the tools we use most are Survey 123, dashboards, and Experience Builder. And if you see the advances that have been made in those tools, it makes it much easier to take some of the things we are doing with young people and apply them in your own context. But we want people to find their own contextual solutions for the places they live in every day, and we're happy to help them.
Great. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Alex.